So obviously, Media Day has passed us by. It was relatively interesting to hear some perspectives, and it's just nice being able to hear some of these guys' voices for the first time. Obviously, the likes of John Tonje, Ace Bailey, Walter Clayton Jr., even a couple of the guys that previous to now I knew of one. Let me go ahead and put this into perspective for myself real quick. I was familiar with Matthew Merle, but I wasn't familiar with Stephen Crow. So seeing their little things and actually like diving into their numbers was actually pretty nice. Seeing a bunch of guys being healthy, seeing Walker Kessler actually being able to participate, hearing their opinions on how they made their trip to Dallas to work out with Keontae, and seeing him take that leadership, like mature role right there and setting that up was really nice to me. Um, it's one of those things where just as an organization, I think the Jazz are putting together something that needs to be built. And I think it's all encompassed in the statement that Will Hardy said himself, nobody's coming through those doors to save you. Basically to say, eh, and of course it's a pretty interesting paraphrase of it. Um, yeah, the team could trade for people, right? Of course they could. Danny loves to trade people away and trade people to the team. That's how it goes. But at the same time, let's call a spade and just say most star players don't want to come to Utah, right? They don't want to come play with the Jazz. So nobody of a ridiculous magnitude is going to come in and change the trajectory of the organization's build, right? It's going to be through the draft, or it's going to be through you guys right there in the locker room right now. Larry Markkinen is the unicorn, right? Even watching him play in Eurobasket, seeing the confidence, seeing him play through energy, seeing him be effective. And yes, his jumper didn't necessarily fall, but I attribute that more towards injury and just the way defenses and the way Eurobasket is played overall schematically. He was one of the few stars I said, and I know that the trade rumors are going to be out the moon, out the behind with it this year, of course. But I do think he's definitely going to stay with the Jazz this year. Next year, could things get finicky? Perhaps. I've seen a couple rumors suggested, a couple interesting conversations, but I don't think that they're worthy of giving the time of day to just yet. Again, it's a year down the line. I think this year he definitely is locked in. Nobody's going to offer anything absolutely ludicrous like a you have to trade him kind of deal for Larry Markkinen this year in particular. Um, in his interview, he said that he was going to go back to a lot of the things that he does very well and being true and honest to himself. So there's not going to be as much experimentation as he did last year. So because of that, his percentages will be better. I think that he might play maybe two-ish less minutes. It's going to be some interesting minutes getting thrown around, and of course, you're going to have the injury bug that's going to inevitably catch him for no reason. Funny how that works. But we all know who it is. Teams tanking, all that good stuff. But overall, I'm pretty pleased with everything. I like the fact, one thing that I love about Will Hardy, just the honesty, just the realistic. This is what the answer is. I hope you can understand. It is what it is. That's the attitude of a head coach that I can always appreciate. I don't like coaches that, sugarcoat things and try to make things seem better than they are, even though we all clearly can see and watch the exact same game and recognize that that's not what's going on here. But some people try to sell you a narrative, try and sell you a story, and that's just not what Will Hardy is. He lets you know, hey, we got to be better defensively, particularly perimeter defense. Even Walker Kessler being a great shot blocker, yes, he's a great shot blocker. Yes, his numbers look good on paper. But overall, as being an elite defender, there's still some work to be done there, even for him. Being willing to call that out of one of your better players is important, right? Walker Kessler obviously is frustrated with his current contract situation, and I really hope the Jazz sort that out. Yes, I know he can't really shoot. Yes, I know we need to get him more involved offensively, but from a shot blocking standpoint, right? And from an overall just defensive impact, having him on the floor makes us a lot better. And we don't have an alternative, right? We finally have Taylor Hendricks back healthy. He's finally been able to run, finally been able to participate in drills and whatnot. So I'm ecstatic about finally having him on the court, back in the game. Uh, Kevin Love, obviously, we thought we were going to see a buyout. We thought we were going to see a trade, and we didn't. So, and judging by the way that he actually had one of the longer interviews. I want to say it was like 14 minutes. Only like two people had a longer video than that. Will Hardy being one. No, he had the second longest because Will Hardy's was the longest. Lowry's was only 7. So yeah, scratch that. But the way he just talked about it was just about him being on the roster, him filling the role that he's expected to cover, him being the mentor, him finding a way to connect with these guys, some of which are going to be like, 10, 15 years younger than him, just making sure that he's right there when everybody needs him to be there, and just being a reliable veteran and a presence in the locker room that can help people work on their game, but also let people know, hey, there's somebody here if you need to talk about stuff, whether it's basketball related or just being a young man growing in the league, trying to have a career, trying to make a long career out of your tenure. And I think that's very important to have. And as a vet, Kevin Love has to be one of the best players you could have. Obviously, we still got Svi. We've still got, let me look. We've obviously got Svi. Mo Bamba's going to be an interesting wrinkle. I don't know how long he's going to last, but I think that him trying to showcase who he is as a player is going to be very imperative to his long-term success. Oscar Shibwe was honest. He was very honest, and I could harp on honesty all day, every day, but just keeping in a stack. Sometimes you can't really say certain things that you want to say. I completely understand that too. But when you can sit there, you could just call a spade, that's always going to be greatly appreciated. And him just honestly talking about how much he enjoys the young energy of the guys like Ace and the rest of them. And even going as far as to say that all the stuff in specifics that he needs to work on, him being a better shooter, him being more reliable, him understanding that he is tremendously undersized, but still wanting to be a reliable person on this roster. It was one of those things where in him being quiet, and that was one of the more interesting ones, because you don't really think about talking on defense too heavily unless you're a defensively minded guy. Well, the simple fact of the matter is, if you don't talk well enough and say a screen's coming, your big doesn't call the screen, you run right into the screen. Screens hurt. If you've ever been hit by one, you know. And when that happens, if your big is late getting up there and you didn't know the screen was coming, you didn't properly hedge, you just ate the screen. Now the guard's wide open. He's butt naked open. And in this league, there's very few guys, except for maybe current Isaiah Collier, who won't hit that wide open three or just make your big look silly in that pick and roll switch. So just the honesty there, saying that he's been working on his foot speed, all that sort of stuff was really impressive to me. You got Georges Niang, him being back up in the room and talking about how it's important not to burn bridges and how it's important to always remain professional because there's always going to be somebody that wants to have you back. And just seeing that, I guess apparently like all of his stops thus far, there was a specific person that he was playing for or with or in some capacity that made the call to have him, come on over, gang. We want to see you hoop again. We want you over here on our side. So seeing that and just from a maturity standpoint is really nice to hear. Isaiah Collier gave some very interestingly vague answers, but it doesn't worry me too much. When asked what he was doing to get ready for this season, most importantly, he was talking about getting in shape, and obviously that's definitely going to be a big thing. He's got a full season ahead. It's all gas, no breaks. Shooting. I was hoping he would say he was working on shooting a lot. He didn't. I'm not super concerned. Turnovers and shooting are going to be his 2 points of emphasis this year. Cody Williams restored some of my faith in his ability to somehow fit in. I don't know how he fits into this roster just yet. You could see that he put on size though. You can see he put on some weight, and we'll see how well that looks on the actual court soon enough. But I think that this year he's going to be able to define what his role could potentially be. I don't think this is a make or break year for him, but I think we have to know what he is as a player this year, if that makes sense. Defensively, especially if we can rely on him or not. Bryce Sensabaugh being honest, saying that he's been getting better defensively, saying that he needs to be able to defend, saying that he wants to be ready to take in that 3-and-D role and be reliable because he knows that he can shoot the ball. He knows he can put the ball in the basket. But last year, defensively, things weren't well. Will Hardy's been talking about how everybody needs to be better defensively, and if you can't be reliable on that side of the floor at all, you just can't see the floor. Very important. Very important. And he took full ownership of that. And I'm just a Bryce believer, man. I just want Bryce to win so bad. And seeing how he came out in the summer league and looked really, really good shooting the rock, defense is that thing. He doesn't have to be terrific, but you got to be reliable. And that's all I can ask for. Kyle Filipowski had a very short one. I was hoping we would get some more questions in there, but we didn't. But it's okay because I do think that he's one of those guys where he's going to glean a lot of new knowledge. Having Kevin Love right there, even having the likes of Yusuf Nurkic, who I really didn't want to come into the season with. You guys know how I feel about trading Colin Sexton and a second round draft pick for Yusuf Nurkic. It burns me a little bit, a lot of it. But at the end of the day, Yusuf Nurkic, if we're looking at the positives, the bright side of things, he could potentially teach, even if he just teaches, Kyle Filipowski and Kyle Filipowski and Walker Kessler to have better touch at the rim. I would say it's a win because he does have some pretty solid post game moves in his bag, and he has been pretty reliable. Does he have his own issues? Yeah. Is he definitely not the defender that that Walker Kessler is? And does he not move his feet nearly as well on the perimeter as Kyle Filipowski? Yes. But at the same time, there's always going to be a little bit of a positive there to be had. Obviously, you talked about Walker Kessler, Taylor Hendricks being healthy, Lowry, that Eurobasket run, chef's kiss, amazing. The fact that we're going to be able to see him, healthy, playing his game, playing the game that he's comfortable with will also be really, really nice, in my opinion. One guy, Keontae George, I know I said this is a make or break year, but he's really off to a great start. That Dallas trip, I know it sounds silly because it's like, yeah, they were working on basketball. Yeah, they were hooping. Yeah, they were getting team chemistry up. But it's just off-season stuff, dude. It's like, nah, man. Because there's a lot of young guys in the league. There's a lot of guys that are trying to take leadership roles in the league that won't do something like that won't set something up like that. And I genuinely want Keontae George to succeed. He hasn't given me enough to buy it, but it's like every time he shoots a shot, I'm like, that's not a terrible shot. You just don't hit that at a high enough rate. Like sometimes guys take horrendous shots. Keontae George is one of those guys where it feels like when he shoots the rock that it's going to go in, and it just doesn't so many times. And he shoots those shots very, very often. He doesn't always get great separation. He doesn't always get the, butt naked, wide open ones, but the confidence is there. And with him, he said he got some more weight room working on those legs and whatnot. I'd like to think that he continues to be progressive. I think he still takes those strides that he needs to take. And coming into training camp, we've got a lot of guys that are going to be working. They're going to be some real bulldogs out there. And I'm appreciative to have the media team, compile everything. On a side note, the videos were there wasn't a lot of people that watched the videos. I mean, yeah, the Jazz are tanking, but do we really hate our players that much? I hope not. I watched everybody's video, even the guys that I didn't think were super relevant or guys that I don't really. I'm not the highest on. We'll say that. Well, I'm going to be very polite. That I'm not very high on. I still watch the videos just to see what they would potentially say and just see what kind of questions the interviewers would have. Obviously, some interviewers have better questions for some guys than other guys. But that's just how the world of media works. Walter Clayton Jr., nobody really made a big point of talking about him, but like I said before, I think that he could make up for the lack of efficiency that they're losing with Colin Sexton. I like his shot selection. I think he could get a little bit better. I think it could be ironed out just a little bit more. As a passer, he will get better. And like I said before, if Isaiah Collier doesn't, if he can't cut down on turnovers and he can't shoot the ball, Walter Clayton will overtake him probably before midway season. Might even be like a third of the way through the season. We might get like 25, 27 games, and you see a change. I do think Isaiah Collier is going to start the season at the point guard spot. But I don't know, man. And another thing is like the guys we're talking about, the pace of Walter Clayton Jr. And that's really important because obviously him being just a competent guard is important. But him spending so much time in college, he understands the flow of the game. He understands the flow of the offense. He understands positioning, where he needs to be the most effective that he can be on the floor. He understands how to communicate and how to talk when he's on the floor. Those are all big, big, big things. And I would say that's something where his experience dwarfs Isaiah Collier's. I feel like I used that in reverse. Sorry, Brand's kind of cooked right now. Watched a lot of tape. But I think overall, The make of this team is really interesting. There's going to be a lot of pieces that need to be evaluated, shifted around. Obviously, Ace Bailey, his shot selection, his confidence, his passing, his dribbling, his handle, his size. He said that he worked a little bit and got bumped around quite a bit, but he's learning how to take it. He's learning how to handle it and dish it back out some. So that was nice to hear. Obviously, like I said already, the passing, shot selection, not being able to hit shots. We know he's a tough shot taker, tough shot maker, but let's buy the easy ones, right? We don't need to be taking contested twos if we could get swing the rock, make a cut, and get an open lay, get an open two, get an open midi, right? Because he's comfortable there. We just got to make sure he's taking the shots that make the most sense when he's on the floor. And also being a quick decision maker. Will Hardy definitely said that. And I highly resonated with that because you just want to see him be the best version of himself that he potentially could be. And the only thing that kind of holds him back will ultimately be himself and the expectations that he forces upon himself. In that press conference, though, he was all smiles. He was genuinely happy and like seeing that and just he got rid of Omar. Yes, that agent that we don't like. He got rid of him. Respect to Omar, right? Because I believe that's what Sharif Cooper's dad. So no, we just don't like how he handled that situation there. Under the assumption that it was him. But parting ways there, being mature, saying we just want to do what's best for me and my family. Boom, keep it pushing. Yeah, great. Communicating that he just wants to be the best player, whether it's learning how to box out properly, using his length on defense to help disrupt passing lanes and deter people from driving on certain people, or playing that help gap, just playing a little bit more of that gap defense, being willing to kind of stunt and recover. Just being willing to do that is going to be very, very important for him. Obviously, the roster as a whole isn't going to be very great from a wins and losses category, but there's gonna be some players that are gonna be on my parlay sheets this year, and I've been holding off. I've been restraining myself from wanting to spend money in the gambling aspect because gambling's not a great thing to do unless you win. Don't stop it till you win. I'm trolling. I promise. But there are some players out here that we have that I believe will show some great things this year, and I hope that they will be progressively better through time, and it's going to be a very interesting year overall. Do I know where we're gonna last or where we're gonna land from a draft standpoint? I don't have a ballpark estimate. I'll probably wait 20 games into the season at least to see how we're looking. I think the team chemistry is going to be the most important thing to see coming out the gate, seeing who's rusty, seeing who's winded, seeing who isn't winded, who is well conditioned, but just can't hit their shots right now. Needs to game shape and in shape aren't the same thing. A lot of people just assume, if you run a lot and you look ripped, you're ready to hoop, and it's like basketball in shape and just being in shape are not one and the same. I think it goes like that for most sports, to be honest with you. But I'd like to think that we will see a large amount of progress from the team overall going forward. And this year should, hopefully, fingers crossed, be the last year that we have to watch the tank and we see a lot more positive stuff. We're going to see some very wacky lineups. I already know. I already see it coming. I see it just as much as I see the sunrise. But I do think that across the board, we're going to see some upticks in percentages from some guys. Keontae George, I'm buying the stock. I'm going to buy Keontae George stock early on. I think he does what he needs to do. I don't know exactly if he starts or if he stays in a 6-man role. That kind of depends on how minutes work out for Ace Bailey, how minutes work out for Walter Clayton Jr., how minutes work out for Isaiah Collier, obviously. Even Cody Williams to a certain extent. But we'll see how things shake out. It's only a matter of time. I'm definitely looking forward to the preseason. That's going to be very, very big for us. And then obviously the regular season, because who doesn't like official NBA basketball? And it's right around the corner. With that being said, I appreciate it if you made it this far in the video. It's definitely a lot shorter than usual. I know last video I said I was going to make it under 30 minutes or at 30 minutes, and it ended up being 50. We're at 20 minutes right now, I think. So I've done really, really good. Most of the videos during the season are probably going to be concise like this. I'll do the live streams like usual. I'm gonna try and strike them up as soon as the game concludes. So I will be streaming it on this YouTube channel. So look out for that. Make sure you have your post notifications on. Just come hang out. Usually, last year we usually had what? It was like just anywhere from like 20 to 40, 45 guys just vibing out. Just talk about hoops, man. And then sometimes if I have the time, especially if I'm off that day, we'll just talk about whatever other team comes to mind, whatever else you guys have on the table for us. But that's really all I had for you. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new and you happen to be a Utah Jazz fan. Drop any topics, questions, concerns, thoughts about the roster coming into this season, what you think the record might end up being, ballpark, of course, and who you think you're buying stock on and who you're saying keep away from and you have to watch some more tape on or see some more progress on before you're willing to believe in them. With that being said, as always, it's been your boy Wraith Hoops. Go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe, turn on post notifications, consider becoming a member to help support the content. And as always, good morning, good evening, and good night, no matter where you're on the globe watching. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.